Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Okay, welcome back. What's our next thing that we're gonna that we were the next thing that we were gonna do was Project 6.2 button to use to change the RGB. But I want to put a pin in that. Let me see here. I wanna pause on that. And what I want to do instead. See, we have all this code up here, and instead of that code, I want to do a little testing. I want to do a little like discovery time here. So what we're going to do instead is, I'm trying to move things around here. What we're going to do instead is explore for a little bit what some of the specific things are in the code that we're actually looking at. So how I got here, I just went to Google and I typed in Arduino. And I type in home and it comes up to this page that shows us all kinds of cool stuff. And I'm going to click on this button up here to bring our menu. We have professional, educators, makers. You'll look at all that stuff later if you want. Products, community, documentation. This is what I want. What kind of documentation? Well, we have hardware, software, cloud, programming. That's what I want. Let's look at learn real quick. Learn, getting started with Arduino, motors, servo motor, articles, sketches. Okay, that's not what I want. I want the raw language. So documentation for the programming. And this is like what all the raw language is based on. So you see programming, and then it has 5 categories. Language reference, libraries. These are, language reference is the bare minimum, right? Libraries are built on the alphabet. So the language reference is the alphabet, the operators, the controls. Libraries are built on that. So you take mathematical functions and you build a calculator that makes mathematical calculations. Now you have a calculator library, right? So kind of like that. Built-in examples, maybe later. MicroPython, not interested. Cloud API, not interested right now. We want the raw language. So within that, we have functions, variables, and structure. Functions, these are all things that are built into it. Digital functions, math functions, bits and bytes, analog, trig, external interrupts, advanced I/O, characters, interrupts, time, random communication, USB, Wi-Fi, and then there's this down here, connect and contribute. There's Project Hub, GitHub repositories, forum, etc., etc. We just want to know how the language works, so those are functions. And then variables, we have constants, we have data types, we have variable scopes, and qualifiers. What's that mean? Well, we can check that out later, but if you're familiar with JavaScript, JavaScript as of like ES16 or ES, I can't remember, but somewhere maybe around 2016, they used to use one type, and then they started using let, or they used to use let, and now they also added this other one. But the general consensus was one replaced the other, but they didn't. It all had to do on where the variable was located. So if the variable was like a globally scoped variable, it should be declared one way. And if the variable were scoped within, for example, a for loop, it should be scoped, or within a block of code, it should be scoped a totally different way. So scope is important when we consider variables, and we'll dig more into that later. We have data types. So we have arrays, we have booleans, we have characters, doubles, floats, ints, long ints, void, word, etc., etc., etc. And we have constants. So floating points, constants, high, low, input, pull up. I'm not sure about their use of constants here because constants shouldn't be able to change, right? So, and all of these are kind of, aside from the Boolean, all of these seem kind of to be floating points aren't Boolean, but the rest of these do seem to be rather Boolean in nature. But what we care about is structure over here. Because yesterday I was looking at the script and I wasn't being able to identify certain things. So here we have our loop function and setup function. We've seen that every script opens with one of those. We have arithmetic operators. These are plus, assignment operator, division, etc., etc. The remainder is the modulo. We've seen that before. What's a difference operator? What's a reference operator? We would have to look at that. Bitwise operators, I believe, have to do with your logic gates. So and or, an exclusive or nor, etc., etc. Comparison operators, double equal sign means equals to. As up here, single equal sign is assignment operator. Greater than, equal to, so on and so forth. Control structure, break, continue, do, while. So for as long as something is true, do this, and then stop doing it. So for like, if you're playing a video game and if you have one bullet in your left in your gun, you want reload typed on the screen, then so it's like while there's one bullet in there, while equipped ammo equals 1, do this, put this memo on the screen to hit the reload button, and then after you hit the reload, that button, that number doesn't equal 1 anymore, it's changed, right? Or if so, it displays it, or it makes it go away. So that might be a case where you would use something like that. It's kind of a conditional thing. Control structure is always very conditional. Under all these conditions, if something, then go do something, or go do something else. Or switch case statement, we saw that the other day. They're fun. They're confusing to a lot of people, but you just have to clearly define what you're doing. Block comments, curly braces, define, include, semicolons, single line comments. We've seen all those. Boolean operators, and. We saw that the other day, and I couldn't quite remember what it meant, but that means, usually you have something inside parentheses on one side, something within parentheses on the other side. So it's like, if this is true, and if this is true, then execute this block of code. Or this is like, if that's not, this would take an overload, like a parameter, and then say it's not true, right? Like magazine full, and if the magazine's not full, then it might, whatever. But that gives you the inverse of whatever that whatever's inside the parentheses. And then of course, you have an or statement. If you have a statement over here, this one or that one, if either one of those happens to be true, then it would execute the code. And we'll try out some of these things in the near future. Compound operators, you see, we've seen some of these already. And as we run across them again, we'll check them out. Let's see, how are we doing on time? Okay, so that's where we're going to reference our language here in the future. So as we start to run into these types of things, we'll come back here and do a reference and take a closer look. But this is where we're going to come back and look at what we're doing for when we get confused in the code. This is where we're coming back to.